It's time for the MD and Chef Team Show.
Let's go!
The content in this show is for informational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician or health professional. Listeners and viewers should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health and wellness concerns and questions. And now, let's start the MD and Chef Team Show.
Hello and welcome to the
MD
and Chef Team Show.
Show.
Oh, we said like a team. Whoa, we said a cappella or acoustic or whatever it may be.
We're so happy to be here. We love doing this, preparing for it, and yay, we're here with you now.
Yeah, welcome to the MD and Chef Team Show. I'm health coach and nutritional chef, a doctor on a mission, Michael, along with my beautiful wife, my hottie bride, Dr. Isabel.
Dr. Isabel. Hun, why should people listen to what we're doing here on the MD and Chef Team Show?
Well, what a question. That's a great question. Hang around, because the reason being is, in health and the journey of brain health, gut health, mental health, all those different areas of health with our body, we're all going through the process of life. And in the process of life, there's some terms we've all heard: downstream, upstream, root cause, all those types of things. But to break it down so simply, because sometimes we get confused of all that stuff, we've heard it, but what we do at the MD and Chef Team Show, I love this analogy. It's, imagine if you're out there, you're barefoot, you're walking, and you tramp on a tack. You step on a tack. Well, ouch, that hurts. You got a problem. This is bad. And you know what? You can go inside and you can take some aspirin. You could put a plaster, Band-Aid on it. You can do a few things for that pain. But that pain, that will be temporary. What we like to talk about at the MD and Chef Team Show is getting to the root cause and saying, okay, we can stop some pain temporarily, but what's causing that pain? Why don't we pull out the tack?
What a concept.
Get to the root cause of what it is and how that happened. And then if we're talking upstream, we could say, okay, maybe you might want to think about wearing shoes when you go walking around in that area where there might be tacks or pieces of glass or those types of things. Just understanding lifestyle options so that these things don't happen. We love to talk about lifestyle options so that things don't happen in your life that can be very bad for your health, because we want to help you to have optimal health until your very last breath while you are here. Because don't you want to just live a long, happy, vibrant life until that last breath, so that the last 20 years aren't just ill health and I'm just barely getting by and, oh, it's so yucky, but I'm still here and alive. No, that's just not.
Which is what a lot of people are doing right now. They're
Well,
just kind of
hanging on
until their last day.
Well, and we know, and this is not just stuff made up, we know through research that research is showing that people are living, most people are living, the majority of people are living the last 20% of their life with ill health, meaning they've got some kind of aches and pains or diseases or ailments or problems going on in the last 20% of your life, meaning that between the age of, let's say, 70 and 20% would be 14 years. So between the age of 70 and 84, you're just kind of barely getting by and living out those last ages. And that, to me, just, I don't know. It sounds yucky.
Well, it's wrong. It's a wrong type of thinking. And the thing is that doesn't have to happen. And that's why Michael and I are here, because we're going to show you, if you want to learn how to prevent and reverse disease and give you hope during the process, so that you and I and Michael, because this is where Michael and I are going. And if you want to jump on and walk along with us, all arms are open. Come and join us, because we're going to be strong, toned, healthy, sexy, and thinking clearly until our last breath. Yeah. That's our whole modus operandi.
Modus
up. Yeah, that's our whole MO.
That's our MO.
Easy. Yeah. That's our big MO, our big mission, okay?
Yes.
So
that's what we're up to here at the MD and Chef Team Show, and Doctor on a Mission. If you check us out on the website.
Yeah.
Hey, hon, so today, what's our topic today? What are we going to get into?
We've put together a little snackable bit of information on answering the question, does it matter when you eat? And so we're going to answer that.
That's an interesting question, because I've heard, and we've talked about it, what should we be eating?
We've talked about that,
Yeah. I mean, you hear it all over the place, and we will continue to talk about that, because food is medicine or food is poison. We're hopefully understanding that. So that's important. But yeah, this is one, and you were talking to me about this, and it's such an interesting topic that does it matter when we eat? So are you actually going to answer?
I'm going to go and take a deep dive, because there's like 6 parts to this.
Whoa.
Yes. So
we are in. Oh, and by the way, before we continue on, just so you know, if you're catching us out there live, or even in the replay, if you catch a show in the replay, if you would please give us a hashtag replay in the comments section to let us know you've come in. And right now, while it's live, we're open for comments, suggestions, questions, whatever's on your mind, just pop it in there, and we'll do our best to answer to that and come back to you right now live. Or if you're in the replay, do the same thing. Give us a comment, suggestion, give us a like, subscribe, all those goodies, because we're here for you, and we do read all the comments and suggestions and whatever you might have on your mind, even if there are some questions that you've got. We will come back to you. All righty?
All right.
So let's roll, baby.
Shall I take off?
Yeah, you take off.
Okay. Buckled in?
I am buckled in and
buckled
ready to
in,
go.
got your pen and paper? Let's go! Oh, I love doing this stuff. This makes my heart just go boom, boom, boom. So here we go. There was an article created by one of my colleagues, my beautiful colleague, Julie Gregory, who's the Chief Health Liaison from Apollo Health. Now, Julie is an ApoE4. Now, that means she had an increased risk of Alzheimer's. And she worked with Dr. Dale Bredesen, who wrote the book, The End of Alzheimer, and who has done 40 years of research teaching us doctors how we can help you prevent and reverse early Alzheimer's. Yes, you heard me right. Reverse early Alzheimer's. But the cool thing is that when you look at this whole picture, it's all about taking care of your number one asset, your brain health. You see, mental health really starts with brain health. So this whole topic is to help people with mental health issues, okay? And who have cognitive decline issues, and who want to prevent cognitive decline, because we don't have to have that. So I was excited to see her information. So I'm just taking some points from her discussion. And the key is, this is important information for optimal health. So there's a couple of questions. Number 1, when to eat? Well, that depends. It really depends on your stage of life. If you're a child, or if you're an adolescent, or if you're in your 20s, this information that I'm going to share is not for you. Okay? However, if you're in your 30s and beyond, this information is for you. which is exciting. I wish we would have known this in our 30s, okay? But I'm glad we know this now.
Yes. There's a lot I wish I had known in my 30s. And not just this, there's a few things, but hey, you know, that's the way it goes.
It's just the way it is.
That's wisdom.
That's, yeah. And so we're learning that. Okay. And also, if you're pregnant, this is not for you. Okay. So this is not for you if you're a child, an adolescent in your 20s, or if you're pregnant. Okay. All right. So another question is, does a long daily fast promote cognitive health? Yes, if you're in your 30s and beyond. And it's recommended that we do a minimum of 12-hour fast with a 3-hour fast before bed. Okay. And the reason this is important is because it allows for autophagy to occur. Autophagy, A-U-T-O-P-H-A-P-A-G-Y. Autophagy is a beautiful process that our body does, and it just eats up all the dead cells in our body, and it repurposes things in our body. Like, because I'm a molecular cellular developmental biology.
Oh my gosh,
I
they say
know.
MCDB, pre-med.
That was my pre-med degree, is molecular cellular developmental biology. So like, we lived, literally, I lived inside, and so did Michael. We lived inside of a cell for 4 years. Mitochondria, which is like your gasoline tank. We're going to take this part because we don't need it. And then if you're inside the cell, it looks and it goes, oh, this part of the DNA needs to be repaired a little bit. Let's clean that up a little bit. And so inside, that's what autophagy does. It goes inside the cell and it goes, okay, let's clean things up and throw away what we don't need and let's repurpose what we can.
And it's really mind-blowing when we start to understand that, because I think as a general society, we think, okay, this is me. You know, it's all like, it's set. You know, these are my cells every day. Autophagy, or it's a toxic change of the cells. So that something's going to be, it's always going to be happening, but whether it's in a good optimal health way or a toxic way. Right. And it always reminds me of the saying, well, you know, where do you come up and, you know, of course I jump in.
That's okay, hon.
It always reminds
That's
me
what we do here.
It always reminds me of the saying, you know, food is medicine or food is poison. And it goes back to this understanding that no matter what we're eating or drinking, we're actually feeding this process. We're feeding into our daily cell autophagy. And it's going to be a toxic changing, or it's going to be a optimal.
I wanted to make that distinction.
Okay. Yes.
Because autophagy is a process.
It's a process.
It's kind of like a toilet that gets plugged up with poop. Yeah. You know, it's going to overflow and make you sick. Yes. But if you learn to allow the body to flush the toilet, which is autophagy, then you got a clean toilet bowl. If you scrub it too.
It's good. Yeah.
So autophagy is especially important for brain health for 3 things. 1, it removes toxic proteins in your brain. 2, it promotes neuronal survival, which means it allows for the nerves to stay connected. Right? It allows the nerves to stay connected. And 3 is it regulates inflammation. So it helps calm down the fire in your brain. Those 3 things. Additionally, autophagy leads to this beautiful process called ketosis. Now, ketosis is beautiful because it allows your body to learn how to use fat for fuel. You see, our bodies are designed to use 2 sources of fuel. One is glucose and the other is fat. But most of us only know how to use glucose and we don't know how to use fat. And when we go through a 12-hour fast with 3 hours no food before bed, we're allowing those 2 processes, autophagy for a cleanup and ketosis to teach the body, hey, if you don't have any glucose coming in, I'm going to show you how we, body, can use fat for energy. So we're getting ready for a bad event, which is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Always have plan B,
Yeah.
right?
And
And so that's what happens.
the body does that naturally.
Yeah. However, it's a little tougher for people to go into ketosis if they've got insulin resistance, prediabetes, or diabetes, which I'll answer in just a little bit. Now, the beauty of ketosis is it also allows for insulin resistance, which is when your insulin doesn't work and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. And it also helps your body jump into this process called metabolic flexibility. All that means is metabolic flexibility means your body can use glucose or your body can use fat for energy. That's all metabolic flexibility means. It can use this muscle or this muscle. It can use fat for muscle or fuel for muscle or glucose for muscle. That wasn't a good analogy. Don't even, just scratch that one out. That kind of came and I said it, and let's just course correct and just say your body will learn how to use fat or glucose in metabolic flexibility.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just, this is the first time I've taught this, and my mentor, John Maxwell, says, hey, the first time you teach it, it's okay, but the 7th time, the 10th time, it's really good. So you're getting the first draft. So let's see. Oh, I also want to talk about our ancestors. Our ancestors knew how to be in ketosis or knew how to use glucose. They knew how to use fat for energy or glucose for energy. They knew how to survive, and that's what our body need to learn how to do. And that's why it's important with our eating. In the ancestral times, before 1700, our ancestors had to hunt for food. Like, food wasn't available all the time. So sometimes they would only get one meal a day. And so their bodies were in ketosis. They used fat for energy. However, in the spring and summer, there was a lot of food. So their bodies were like, oh, I get to eat, gather, and I get to eat. And they learned how to use glucose for energy stores. The problem now, after the 1700s, because there's food is available everywhere, is our bodies are just gathering. We're just constantly eating glucose. And there's problems with that. You start developing insulin resistance, which I'll discuss that in just a moment.
And the fat isn't being used or burned up.
And so we store it
So
as
it
fat.
gets stored as and just to clarify, when you say fat, we're talking body fat.
Body fat, yeah.
The extra that we all have on us.
Which causes a lot of problems. Inflammation, like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attacks.
Yeah. And
high cholesterol, blah, 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 all the chronic diseases that we're seeing out there. So that's why we're so excited to teach you the importance of learning how to be in ketosis and metabolic flexibility. Take it away.
And the interesting thing, the fact is, as you were saying, the difference between ancestral eating styles where, you hunt and gathered, and you didn't always just have, when you hunted, it wasn't just always right there. And today, the difference, and it was a great example today, we went out to the mailbox, mail came today, and what was in there? Junk mail about being able to have fast food delivered to the house. Now, we live in New Zealand. Maybe you think whatever part of the world you'd be in, that couldn't possibly be in New Zealand. But yeah, it was a thing about being able to get McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, I forget what else,
Subway, pizza,
I don't know which one, but basically it was about a service that you can just call in, hello, send that stuff to my house. Boom, there it is at the door, and boom. So is food readily available? Yes, we're not talking every part of the world, but when people have the internet, phones, these types of foods, fast foods around, now it can just be dropped off at your front door. You don't have to do anything, and you can grab it, sit down, eat it, and watch TV the rest of the night. And guess what? Now your glucose levels have built up. You're going to be moving toward insulin sensitivity because of insulin resistance because of that. And then you're storing a whole bunch of body fat.
Yeah, because your body doesn't need all that glucose.
But those advertisers, they're not worried about that.
No, they don't care about your
They just
health.
want you to buy the stuff.
They're not going to be holding your hand when you have a heart attack from all this sugar all over your body or when you have high blood pressure. So,
Well, they're not paying for your hospital bills.
no, or your health bills.
Yep.
Okay, so the next question is fasting appropriate for me? Well, maybe. If you're a healthy person with strong muscles and you're at a good weight, well then yeah. Then it's a good idea to begin the 12-3 fast, nutritional ketosis fast. However, there's 2 issues that I want to share with you that are not appropriate, but they can become appropriate. But if you're in this situation, you want to be working with your doctor. The first is it's not immediately appropriate if you are dealing with insulin resistance. Okay. Insulin resistance. I'm just going to keep it as simple as I possibly can, okay?
Thank you, doctor.
Insulin resistance. Because you even get the words mixed up. Sensitivity,
Yeah,
insulin
yeah,
resistance.
yeah.
We want insulin to work in us all the time, okay? Insulin is so important in our bodies. Insulin takes glucose and puts it inside the cell so the cell can work and do its thing. Insulin resistance means insulin cannot get glucose into a cell. So the cell suffers. It doesn't have energy. It can't work. Think immediately about your brain health. If you're not getting sugar, if you only know how to use glucose, when I say glucose, I also mean sugar. They're interchangeable. If you can't get energy in the form of glucose into your brain, you can't think. You've got cognitive decline. Now, with insulin resistance, what happens is if you can think of your cell having a gate and insulin opens up the gate. Insulin resistance means the key doesn't open the gate. It's a rusty gate. So there's no gate that's going to open to allow the glucose to come into the cell. That's insulin resistance. Why do we get insulin resistance? Because there's too much glucose in our body and insulin can't keep up. And so it gets rusty. It's like, I can't keep up. So your body can't get the insulin, the glucose into the cell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I try and keep it as super simple as possible. But it's a topic that is, it's a little tricky for people to understand. Just the bottom line is insulin, when it's working well in your body, when you're metabolically flexible, insulin gets sugar into the cell and your cell works and you're smart and you're functioning. When you've got insulin resistance, the door doesn't open and glucose doesn't come into your cell and you can't think, you can't function. Okay? So people with insulin resistance, like pre-diabetics or diabetics, have too much sugar in their bloodstream because the insulin can't get the sugar into the cell. And so all that sugar in your bloodstream affects your vision, can affect your heart because it's irritating. It causes inflammation. So the doctor knows only one thing, and that is to give you pills to help put the sugar away safely because the insulin's not working. Your insulin is resistant. Your insulin is defective. So let's just think about you. If you hear Michael and I and you're like, oh, I'm going to go for it. I don't know if I'm metabolically flexible, but I'm just going to go for this because I want to become strong, toned, and healthy, and I want to learn how to do this. So you've got prediabetes or you've got type 2 diabetes and you're on medication for that. And you start doing this, you start implementing the fast of 12 hours, 3 hours before going to bed, then what's going to happen is your body only knows how to use glucose. It only knows how to use glucose for energy. If you're fasting for 12 hours and you've got insulin resistance, or you've got pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, there's no sugar in your system. Your body doesn't know to use fat. Your body doesn't know to use ketosis, to use it as an energy store. So what happens? People with insulin resistance, especially those on medication for prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, will experience hypoglycemia. Hypo means low. Hypo means your blood sugar goes down.
It's a crash.
Wow. And you know how you feel with that? I sure have. When
Yeah.
I was not metabolically flexible, I would get shaky. Remember a conversation we had with somebody we know the other day? They were shaky, started getting panicky, and then they ate a mango and they had a teaspoon or a tablespoon of honey. Well, they have insulin resistance. Their body is not metabolically flexible. So if you are in that category of having insulin resistance, prediabetes, or type 2 diabetes, work with your doctor. Say, hey, I really would like to start implementing this. And if you're on medication, let them know that you're going to be implementing this, and start doing shorter fasts. Maybe not a 12, maybe just a 4-hour fast before you eat for a week. And then the following week, try a 6-hour fast before you eat. And slowly say, hey, body, we're learning how to be metabolically flexible, okay?
And you can safely start to come off your medications by doing it in a safe manner like that. Taking steps, not just boom.
Yeah.
Because your body doesn't know what's going on when you do that, and that can send it into some shock, which is
hypoglycemia. And then you'll go, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening. Well, what's happening is your body's saying, hey, I need energy, and I need energy now. And when you're metabolically flexible, it will take fat. It'll start burning fat, but that takes a little bit of time.
Yeah. You're retraining the systems on how to work properly the way they've been set up by our creator.
And you can.
Yeah.
But it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I know Michael and I had a tough time at the beginning because we were both pre-diabetics.
Yeah, and you got to just retrain your body systems and reset them the way it's like a factory reset of any kind of technology. We hear about these. You got to do a factory reset. Well, what you're doing is setting up a creator reset of the way it was designed beautifully, and through lifestyle habits, we've messed it all up. And so we have to go through a process of a factory reset now, not like technology where you can just push a couple buttons and do a few things. It doesn't work that fast, but we can do a factory reset over some time.
And teach your body how to use fat or glucose for energy, which is what our ancestors did. But after the 1700s, our bodies just know how to use glucose. Okay, so part number 2, the other person that
The other group
that's not good for fasting right now is if you're underweight. If you're underweight and you start doing this fast, it's very dangerous. You don't want to be doing this for 2 reasons. One, if you don't have enough meat on your bones, you'll start doing this thing called sarcopenia, and your body will start eating your muscle for energy, because your muscle is protein, and protein can be broken down into sugar. Okay? So if you're underweight, you don't want to be doing this because 1, you can start experiencing sarcopenia, and 2, you can start experiencing osteopenia, which osteo is just bone and penia is breakdown. That's all those 2 words are. And sarco is muscle. So sarcopenia is muscle breakdown for energy, for energy, and then osteopenia is bone breakdown. And you don't really know that's happening until you break a bone. So the key is, and also sarcopenia and osteopenia, both of those increase your risk for cognitive decline. So what do you want to do? You want to get your bone strength up. You want to get your muscle strength up. You want to get up some body fat on. So if you're underweight, don't do this until you've got healthy muscles.
And that's something that's not really discussed much in society, because we hear of the poor health issues and consequences for being overweight or obese, but we don't really much talk about the fact that if somebody's underweight or they're very thin or skinny and have no muscle tone, they are looking at some poor health issues down the track too. So it's both ends of the scale can really be downstream effects can be very bad for your health. And so there's an optimal area kind of in the middle there where we all need some kind of muscle mass. We all need strong bones, and we all need a little bit of body fat so the body can actually use that. Just
when
thinking,
it's in ketosis.
when it's in ketosis. So just thinking like, well, I'm just going to get really thin and really skinny. Well, that's not good either.
No,
That's
don't
like,
do that.
That's like saying, well, I'm just going to get overweight and obese. Well, we talk a lot about that, but on the other end of it, that's also a conversation too that's not healthy.
Right. Good point. So the next question is how often do I eat? Great question. So, all right. So you can do 2 meals a day or 3 meals a day or 4 to 5 meals a day. Now let's start with 2 meals. If you're going to be doing the 12-3 fast, then you can have a small breakfast and have a larger lunch, okay? You always want your larger meal when the sun is at its highest. And then you want to skip dinner, okay? That's a 2 meal. If you do a 3 meal, then you can do a light breakfast, a heavy lunch, and then a light dinner. That's if you do 3 meals. Now, if you are increasing your muscle strength, you're doing strength training, which we highly recommend if you're over the age of 30. Because at the age of 30, you start losing 1% of your muscle every year. And by the time you are 70, you're losing 3 to 5% of your muscle every year. Muscle is
You can lose.
Yeah, but you're not going to because, you're with us and we're going to do this
you're
right.
going to work on it, yeah.
Yeah, but remember, muscle is medicine. You know how food is medicine or food is
Poison.
Well, muscle is medicine or no muscle is poison for you because it increases your risk of cognitive decline, i.e. Alzheimer's, and your increase of fractures, breaking bones. So if you're going to eat, if you're in the process of muscle strength training, which Michael and I are doing, then we have to eat 4 to 5 times within that non-fasting time to get our appropriate protein in. So here's the deal about protein. Protein, you can only absorb 30 grams of protein at a time. Your body can only absorb 30 grams of protein at a time. It's not designed to absorb more than that. If you eat 40 grams of protein, then what it'll do is it will store it as fat for energy later. Okay? So that's important to know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. That's a key. We didn't know that, but now we know. So it's also important when you're working out to be eating the protein within an hour to 2 hours after your strength training workout.
Yeah. Now, I was just going to add to that with the 30 at a meal. Yes, if you want to go 40, 50 at one meal or something like that, you can. Just know you could if you are definitely metabolically flexible because that extra protein is going to be turned into glucose, stored as fat, stored as fat, then if you're metabolically flexible and you're going to be doing a lot more as far as working out or different things, activities during the day, okay, you might burn that fat because you're metabolically flexible. The body can burn it. However,
Really?
yeah,
Where did you read that?
well, that's just part of understanding. If you're metabolically flexible and you don't have a lot of glucose coming in, then your body will switch over to burning that. But, see, there's a big but there.
Wait, just go back again for a second. So you've got 30 grams of protein and your body absorbs it to build muscle.
Right.
So anything after that, what are you saying
It's stored
happens?
as body fat.
Is stored as body fat. Yeah,
Right.
right.
But if you're metabolically flexible, and maybe you're somebody, depending, I'm just giving another scenario, somebody that possibly works out 2 or 3 times, because some people work out twice a day.
True. Some people work, yes,
Twice
we
a
do know
day.
them.
Some people might work out twice a day plus go running too. I mean, they're just totally active all day long. If they are metabolically flexible,
Right, okay.
then yeah, their body will burn that body fat, that
Okay.
extra.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But that's that certain type of situation. Most people, if they're working out, they'll do it once a day. They're not going to work out 2-3 times a day, go for another jog later on, this and that, you know. But some people do.
Yeah, true.
So yes, that extra for them, and they're metabolically flexible, their body will burn off
true.
that extra.
Okay, I understand what you mean.
But for the majority of us, which is probably 90% of the population, or at least 80% and above, that yes, we're working out and that, but we're not going to end up burning that extra fat. We're going to be storing some extra fat if we go over 30, and that's not necessarily what we want.
No, that's
So
not.
you're going to have to spread it out over the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay, and then I also just wanted to give you these 2 numbers. So if you're not doing strength training, then you want to make sure that you're getting 1.2 grams per kilo per day of protein. Okay? I'll let you figure that out for yourself. And remember to split it up into 30s, unless you're doing 4 or 5 workouts a
So
day.
1.2 grams per kilo per day.
day.
And if you're a pound person, then you can Google it and figure out what that
just
works out
just
as.
Google conversion from pound to kilo,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
1.2 kilos, 1.2 grams of protein per kilo of weight that your body is per day. And that's if you're not doing strength training. If you are doing strength training, then you want to be doing 1.6 grams minimum. I mean, we know people that are doing 2 grams per kilo per day. Okay. And so for Michael and I, we do the 1.6 for our strength training, and that requires us to split up our meals into 4 to 5 meals, right?
Yeah, to get that protein level up. So,
Within that fasting period, outside of that fasting period.
so when you say how often should I be eating, it also depends on
Depends.
what's your activity levels that day. If your activity levels are just kind of basic and normal, well, yeah, then, it's just your normal level of 1.2 grams per kilo. But if you're strength training that day, or you're doing a lot of activities or whatever it may be, maybe you've got some really hard manual labor you're doing, whatever it could possibly be, then yeah, that day it's 1.6 grams per kilo. So how much you have to adjust per day on what your activity levels are for your protein. And some days, like my beautiful Dr. Isabel said, is normally for us it's 3 meals a day spread out over the day, but on those
Strength training
those
days,
strength
it's
training
4 to
days,
5.
4 to 5 meals.
Yeah.
Because that's how we can get it all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before Betty by time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we keep track of it on our phone. Okay, I've had 30. Okay, I've had 20.
So one of the things I just wanted to say as a follow-up, and that's, so as we're talking through this, one thing to understand is this is personalized medicine.
Yeah, totally.
You can't just say, well, it's the same for everybody. Well, absolutely not. I mean, again, if we work out, what days we work out, we do one good, strong session that day. We don't do 2 or 3 sessions, or we don't do that session and then go, running for an hour or this and that. I mean, that's a resistance day.
Yeah.
So, but there are other people who, that's what they love to do. I mean, they might work out twice a day and go for a half-hour run and all that. So their timing and their amounts are going to be different, So you have to look at your personal situation and understand with these different suggestions Isabel is giving you, what's going to work for me, and then I have to work a plan for what type of day am I living today.
I have one more question to answer.
Fire away.
So what about 1 meal per day? Okay, first of all, yeah, maybe for 2 days if you've put on a little bit of extra weight, fast, do 1 meal per day. But just know that you can only absorb 30 grams of protein. Well, if that's like nothing, you're going backwards. You're breaking down muscle. Now there's 2 problems that are going to be going on here, okay? So if you're only eating 1 meal per day because you're feeling a little chunky, or 2 days, that, okay, moderation. I'm into the 80-20 rule, but you don't want to be doing 10-day fasts or 7-day fasts or water fasts. I mean, because one, you're going to be breaking down muscle. Your body will break down muscle because it's the quickest form of energy before it starts breaking down fat. That's just the way it is. And so you're going to be breaking down muscle. That's sarcopenia, losing muscle. You don't want to lose muscle. You're already going to start losing muscle at 1% starting at 30 years of age. You don't want to do that. And then the next thing is, if you're breaking down muscle in your body, it's going into sugar. And so that just defeats the purpose of ketosis. Ketosis is teaching your body how to use fat instead of glucose. So we don't recommend it I don't recommend fasting 1 meal a day at all, from my humble and honest medical profession, okay?
Would you do it, just a question saying that, what about if somebody decided 1 day a week I'm going to have 1 meal? Would that be okay?
I don't see the purpose of it.
Right.
Yeah, because you can't get any more than 30 grams of protein into your body. So now you're using your muscle. You're breaking down muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know, and that's what I think too.
Unless you're metabolically flexible, then you'll start burning fat, right?
Yes.
You'll burn fat.
Right.
But you're at risk for burning muscle, and why would you want to do that?
My recommendation is having, those 6 days a week that, you would think that, okay, I'm going to do 1 meal a day on the last day. I would suggest those 6 days a week, just concentrating more on a great nutritional lifestyle where your food is just natural and clean. Because that will serve you well more than anything to thinking, okay, well, I can pretty much eat whatever I want for 6 days, and then I'm going to do like a water fast on a Sunday or something. Well, that's not really doing you any good, because a lot of times we get fooled into thinking I can do whatever I want, and then I'm going to go on a 3-day water fast or a lemon fast or this fast or whatever that, and it'll clean it all out. And no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I know the Bible talks a lot about fasting, and Christians do a lot of fasting.
Well, that's for a spiritual purpose.
Yeah.
It's
not for losing weight. It's more for spiritual. So this is for health, okay? But for your spiritual health, fasting, I see a place for that, because it really makes you just focus on Jesus. That's for sure. Because if you think about food, well, then you'll just go nuts. So that's a wrap.
Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap. So that's a wrap on the topic for today, which was what time to eat for optimal health. I hope that helps. I hope that clarifies a lot.
And if you got any questions, comments, suggestions on that, please fire them away. Bring them in the post. Let us know what your thoughts are. I don't know. Don't take off, because in a moment we're going to have our relationship chat, because, we know that's important. We've been together for just about 45 years here in a couple months, and we know that it's not easy. We don't assume that it's easy to be together that long, but we do know in today's world we need stronger relationships. And so we love talking about relationships and a lot about it. And then, of course, before you take off, Dr. Isabel has a great word of inspiration because that's one of her passions, is inspiring people and giving them hope. So we always end the show with a great word on inspiration. And, if you want to learn more about us, you can check us out at doctoronamission.com. We've got some great freebies on there, masterclasses, guidebooks, all kind of goodies, plus all our courses and services are there. And if you want to learn more about us on social media and, hey, what are these guys up to, what's life like, and all those kind of goodness, just check us out at Doctor on a Mission on your favorite social media channel. You'll find us there. All righty. So let's get into our relationship chat for today.
Okay, take it away, babe.
And I do want to say I just love that part of today about, when should I eat, what's fasting, and all these different types of things that we can be doing. So it's a great
it's very confusing out there, and so I just wanted to break it down for people.
And when you say that, and before I have to add this, is the key is understanding that functional medicine, integrative medicine, lifestyle medicine is personalized medicine. It's about understanding you, me, Isabel, as an individual and what's going to work for you. So if you're out there and you see something on social media, wherever it be, saying, well, you need to do this because this is going to work. Well, yes, it could be a great guideline for what may work, but you also have to understand what's the real way to dive into it is get a mentor, find somebody in the functional integrative world that can work with you as a one-on-one coach to say, okay, let's talk about you. Where are you at? What are your goals? What are you looking to achieve? What's your history? Where are you at right now? And start to look in, what's going to work for you. And yes, this might be a great guideline, as we talked today about many different guidelines with eating. Mm-hmm. But each individual now, we're going to have to work it so that it fits with them beautifully, so for their optimal health in life. Would you agree, my dear?
Oh, yes. One size does not fit all.
Yes. Relationships. So today, my topic on relationships, and I'm just going to move this out of the screen. Thank you.
I have no idea what you're going to talk about
My
today.
topic on relationships is titled The Changing Seasons of Relationship Communication. Because a lot of times when we talk about relationships and communicating, we just use the same language, the same lingo, the same vibe, the same way of communicating. And a good thing to understand is that communication throughout life changes. That's how life changes. And there's seasons that we want to understand in communication. Example being, we start out as a couple. We're together, we're learning how to communicate as a young couple just starting out in life. We had to learn the processes, and we got therapy, we got help with that. We got a coach that worked with us in some of those early days because the problems and clashes were happening and we didn't understand. And, so we had to work on our communication in the early days as a couple. Then you have children, we have children, so now we got babies. Mm-hmm. So 2 beautiful daughters. So now we're learning to communicate not just as a couple, but as a couple with babies. And that changes the whole dynamic. If you've ever had children and understanding you got babies in the house, now we got a different dynamic. You got working adults. You got, I was the stay-at-home dad and Isabel was out in the workforce as a doctor, and we got 2 babies at home, and now we're having to change that season of communication on how do we communicate and also, have these kids have a great start in life, these babies. And the babies then move into toddlers where they're 2-year-olds. And we've all heard the terrible twos saying and all this and that.
They weren't that terrible.
No.
Do you think? Well, I don't think it was.
I think we say that because what happens is
they learn to say no.
Right.
And we're like, no, no, don't say
Yeah.
no to me.
They're by the age of 2, yes, they're walking, they're running. If you ever had 2-year-olds, they're
Oh.
crashing, they're burning, they're pulling things down, they're knocking things over, they're banging, they're hurting, they're scratching, they're getting hurt. And also they're starting to already, in their way, communicate and say, oh, you know, you're used to going, yeah, we're going here, this and that. And now they start to go, no, I don't want to do that. And it's like, wow, where did that come from? You
And
know?
then they start asking why. Why?
And
why?
that starts to come, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
the words
oh, whoa.
and it's like, you know, there's a pair of sunglasses, there's a pen, and it's like, well, no, you don't play with the pen right now, or I'll show you how to do it. Like, why? Well, what it does is it writes like this with the thing, you know, and they go, why? You know, how? And this and that. So you're learning how to communicate now with toddlers. And yet, remember, you're still a couple. Now you're parents of toddlers, and how does that communication style go? Then you have, they get a little bit older. Now you've got preteens and then teenagers. Well, guess what?
Totally different
That's
scene.
a whole other season of communication. Now, how do you do that? I mean, you can read all the books you want. I love to read books. I love to listen. I love to get mentorship. But at the end of the day, when
Yeah.
you're in it, and this is your family unit, you know, this is your ecosystem,
Yeah.
all that stuff can be out the window.
And I saw this one post where it's great to read about how to swim in a storm, but you only really know how to swim when you're in the storm. And that's true. You can do all the reading and all the listening, but it's not until you're in there swimming where you're like, okay, this is how we do it, baby.
Yeah.
And then they turn 20, and then they turn 30. So it's like a totally different, everything's different.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't jump ahead of me here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't read your notes, babe. I'm
I know,
sorry.
I'm coming through
I'm
the
just
season.
living through it
I know.
with you.
I got the season. So, yes, that's another season. And then your children become adults. And they're adults. And first off, you're like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? But now that's a whole other season. And that's a season we're in right now of communicating with adult children.
No, they're not children anymore.
Well, they're adult. Yeah, I shouldn't say
They're
adult. Children. They're adults.
They're adult daughters.
They're adult daughters. Yeah,
Yeah.
These are adults.
Yeah.
And you know, and so that's a whole other season because I didn't catch any of the teaching on that part. And the other thing is, you've never been there before.
Yeah.
You know, every one of these seasons are brand new for your personal ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, I mean your family.
Yeah.
These are all brand new every time you step into these seasons, and each season has a different communication style for your family. It changes the communication of the couple. It changes the communication of the family. It changes the communication of each individual in these seasons. And so now we're in a season of communicating with our adult daughters individually in these seasons and learning how to do that. And then one season...
And it's bumpy because we've never done this before.
Yeah.
I'd love for it to be smooth, like a pizza base, but it's not. It's a bumpy... We're learning how to do this. And then we're learning how to keep that relationship afresh and just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one season we haven't gotten to yet, and maybe we will, maybe we won't, is being grandparents. If you've been grandparents, you probably understand that's a whole other season. Because now the thing is, and I'm only imagining and talking to people who have become grandparents, is you have a communication with the children of your children, but understand that you're not the parent, and if the actual parents of your grandkids don't like your style of communicating, then that can cause a problem because you're putting your communication style onto the grandchildren, and if the parents of those grandchildren, your children, don't like the way you're doing that, that could cause a conflict too. So that's going to be a whole other season. If you're grandparents, I know you'll probably imagine, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mean, I put my parenting style on my grandkids, and my kids, their parents didn't like it, you know. So I can imagine that stuff can happen. So the bottom line is understanding that communication is not static. Communication in life is constantly changing. There's seasons of communication. So if we understand that, then we understand that we need to change with those seasons of communication and do our best to work through those, and also our own personal changes of those situations. Because if we use the same communication that we did in another season with the new season, it's not going to work.
It doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit. It's like, you know, putting the square peg in the round hole type thing, saying. So with relationships, one of the point I'm trying to bring up today is understand the fact that communication, connection is important, but it's going to change throughout life depending on what season of life is. And I highly suggest you think about what season am I in and what's my communication style in this season of relationships. And if it's whether it's a couple or with a family or your full ecosystem of a whole bunch of people, then you need to look at it and say, okay, where am I at? What's my communication style? And
always be honest.
Yeah.
And always decide that your character is going to be, your habit is going to be honesty.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Not covering up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Communication. Seasons of communication.
Good job, Ben.
And relationships, so important.
So it's constantly changing. Relationships
Yeah.
are constantly growing.
So, my dear, I know you want to leave us with an amazing inspiration today before we sign off. So, would you please inspire us as we head on out into today's world?
Well, I've entitled this, Lay It Aside. Lay it aside. You know, life is full of so many challenges, right? I mean, look, there's bills. There's bills. The other day, I went to the dentist and I was like, oh yeah, you need some x-rays. Yeah, go for it. Click, 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 click. Then, you know, she's like, okay, come take a look at the x-rays. And oh my gosh, I need this, I need that, I need bills, bills, bills. I come home and I go, babe, my mouth needs money. And here in New Zealand, dental insurance is non-existent, especially when you're in your 60s. I mean, it's just so expensive. So life is full of challenges at any turn in the corner. You got money problems, health problems, business problems, relationship problems. It goes on and on and on. We know as doctors and as human beings living on this earth that stress is not good for your body. Stress makes us very, very sick. And we carry those burdens. And we know that our thyroid, for instance, right here, this thyroid controls 400 functions in your body. This little organ right here, 400 functions. Your adrenals right here, right in back, right on top of your kidneys, they secrete cortisol when you're stressed out. If your cortisol is really, really high, guess what? It shrinks your memory center, your hippocampus in your brain. Stress is very, very detrimental, and it makes us very, very sick. So how do we handle this? Well, we can go and eat ice cream. We can eat our chips.
That's what they do in the movies all the time.
That's what I used to do.
That's where every time there's stress and you see it in the movies, or there's a relationship problem or something, it's like, oh, let's go get some ice cream and watch a movie. And, you know, it's...
Yeah, comfort food.
Yeah.
We've done it. We still do it. Or you can drink alcohol, or you can go on the internet and start shopping. You can do a lot of things to distract you from the stress. Or you can go to God. Just an idea. That's what I've learned. I've learned now, instead of doing all of that, I just decide, okay, God, let's have a little talk. And the reason I say that is because in the Bible, it says God's word is alive and full of power. And it really is. The more I read the Bible, the more I realize, yeah, Lord, you really do have a good word for me. You really are giving me power and love and direction. And that's in Hebrews 4:12, just in case you wanted the reference. And we can find a lot of answers to life and have a lot of peace if we just go to the Bible and read and ask for wisdom. And one of the wisdoms that it says in the Bible is lay aside every burden. And that's in Hebrews 12:1. So one teacher, so how do we do this? Well, one teacher that I was reading about suggests that we go to the hardware store and we get a patio brick. You see this patio brick? It's pretty heavy.
Doing your resistance training.
This patio brick is about, I'd say about 8 kgs. Okay? And, so buy a patio brick, and on the patio brick, write all of your burdens, everything that you're concerned about. Okay? I don't like to use the word worry anymore, because when I say I'm worried, that means I don't trust God. So instead, and I know that that hurts his heart. So instead, what I say is, Lord, this is a burden of mine. So write down your burdens on here, okay? Every single one. And then you want to carry this with you. You want to put it in your purse, or you want to put it in your briefcase. And it goes along with you wherever you go. Can you lift this and hold that? Mm-hmm. That's pretty hefty, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I'll hold it while you talk.
Okay, and so you go into the shower with it. You know, you just carry it and get nude and then go take your shower. You take it to bed, you take it to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you take it to work, you take it to dinner. You know, you take it with you wherever you go. And after 2 days of doing that, if you make it 2 days, I mean, it might just be 1 day, then I want you to think about how heavy this is. That's like you're carrying that around. That's in bed with you while you're sleeping, and you bump into it because you're worried throughout the night. You know, you're worried because you haven't casted your care onto God. And so the writer says, then take this brick and put it down and feel how light you feel. Does that feel better?
Yes.
That does feel better, doesn't it? I mean, I feel better I actually felt lighter giving it to you. So if you were God, I felt a lot lighter just giving it to God, to you as God, you know, as an analogy. And then the writer says, put it down at your front door. So as you go out into your day, look at the stone and see all the burdens that you're leaving behind for God to take care of. And it really lightens you up. It actually decreases your stress, and that's what it's all about. So as you're walking away to start your day, there's 2 things to remember from the Bible. God loves you, and he wants you to trust him. So lay aside every weight. That's what God's saying to you. Lay aside every weight. And God's also saying, give me your burdens and I'll take care of you. He says that in Psalm 55:22. I don't know about you, but I like not having to carry this around. And you may want to consider doing this to lay your burdens down. So in conclusion, landing this plane, landing the MD and Chef Team show, for the inspiration, lay it down. You do your part. You know, you got to do your part. That's just the way it is. And then lay it down. Lay your burdens down, and then let God do his part. You do your part, and God will do your part, his part. And that's the beauty of knowing that Father God's in control. Okay? All right.
Lay it aside. Those burdens are very, very heavy, and they will be heavy burdens on you. Give it up to God.
And it's amazing how much peace you experience. Like,
The weight is lifted.
I can't tell you this. I can't tell you how this happens, but it always happens. Whenever I've got the inspiration part to share with you, and it's a word from the Bible, which it usually is now, like for instance, lay it down, lay it aside. I got that on Monday. I was like, that's what I'm going to do on the inspiration part. Do you know how many burdens came into my life? I think it would be 6 burdens, all within a 48-hour period. And I know it was a test from God. I know it was God saying, you going to lay it down? You're going to lay it down? I'm watching you, girl. I'm watching you. And I was like, yes, Lord, I am going to lay it down because I know you love me and I'm going to do my part. Yeah, I'm going to do my part in taking care of these things, but I'm going to lay it down and trust you to do your part. So I can encourage you to consider to lay your burdens down. Mwah! I love you guys. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you that you're allowing us to walk alongside you.
Thank you for joining us here on the MD and Chef Team Show. And if you enjoyed the show or you want to be notified in the future of upcoming shows, just please subscribe to wherever you're watching this and join us because we will be there for you. And you can come on over to DoctorOnAMission.com to learn more about us and look us up on social media at Doctor on a Mission. Thank you much for today, for the privilege to serve you well.
See you next time.
Bye for now. If you're part of that 70% who haven't subscribed yet, well, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can come along with us. Give us a like. Thanks.